When you enter that enormous hall, with its polished herringbone floor, an elegant coffered ceiling rising up 2 stories above, you can almost hear the echoes of all the musicians who recorded here. David Bowie, Iggy Pop, Nick Cave, Depeche Mode, U2, all of them came to West Berlin looking for something. A change, a lift, a musical salvation even. And somehow, they found it here at Hansa Studios.
This was the recording studio at the end of the world. It was hidden away in a forgotten part of West Berlin, where artists and derelicts roamed the streets. A century ago, it had been a prestigious concert hall until the Nazis confiscated and burned all the music and turned it into a venue for their good German Reich music parties. During the war, it suffered great damage, and afterwards, it was rebuilt with everything focused around that beautiful hall. Then, in 1975, the Meisel brothers bought that building, put 5 recording rooms in it, and named it Hansa Studios.
At that time, there were no buildings near Hansa Studios, no sign of life. Outside the wide control room window was an enormous flattened area, an area no person could walk across and hope to remain alive. Just beyond that area, less than 500 feet away, stood the long, gray, ominous Berlin Wall. It was the wall between freedom and oppression, between West and East Berlin. From the window of Hansa, musicians and engineers could see guards with machine guns always watching them, staring through binoculars from the guard tower just beyond the wall.
But inside the studio, the natural acoustics of the studio were nothing short of amazing. Bands loved the big sound of Studio 2, or as they called it, the Hall by the Wall. In this hall, some of the greatest rock songs of all time were written and recorded, from David Bowie's Heroes to U2's One. There was something about this place that pulled artists to new heights that they had not reached before.
The wall was obviously the most unique thing about Berlin. What with the proximity of Hansa to the wall, obviously had a huge influence on Bowie.
David Bowie was the first of these artists to come to Hansa.
Hey, is that?
David Bowie.
Brock Samson. It's been a while.
Not long enough. You're lucky I don't kill you right here after what you pulled in Berlin.
In the summer of 1976, Bowie traveled to West Berlin to escape his drug-fueled lifestyle and the trappings of fame, and to throw himself into his music. Bowie said that in Berlin he felt a joy of life and a great feeling of release and healing. Berlin was, for him, a city that's so easy to get lost in, and to find oneself too.
Some days they won't let you.
Bowie had called his previous album's genre plastic soul, and he was ready to move on, to get to something real, something deeper. With this in mind, Bowie brought in producer Brian Eno to produce. Eno would go on to help Bowie record 3 albums in Berlin. Out of those first sessions, they recorded the critically acclaimed album Low.
Bowie found that experience so refreshing that he was inspired to bring Iggy Pop to Hansa. He wanted to rehabilitate Iggy both personally and musically. It was at Hansa that they recorded Lust for Life, with Bowie producing.
Lust for Life wasn't done here in this studio, it was done downstairs in Studio 3, which at that time was probably the newest, most spectacular recording studio in Germany.
David was in the role of producer. They said, there's this beat on Armed Forces radio, bump, 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 a dump, and Hans said, oh, you mean it's like this? Jimmy said, that's exactly.
We decided to set up the drums in the main area and give it loads and loads of space and use more mics than we would normally use for a drum kit so we could get an ambient sound.
With the big drum sound rolling, Iggy just started singing, freeforming, and in that moment, he came up with the lyrics for one of his biggest hits, Lust for Life.
After recording that album with Iggy, Bowie began working on his next album at Hansa.
Nothing had a title or a lyric. Heroes took about a month to record. We had Fripp come in, and he was the lead guitarist on this album, and that turned out really, really great.
I was just blown away from that sound.
It took Bowie a few weeks to think of a lyrical idea for the song, but finally he did, and he started to write the lyrics.
I remember I was sitting in the control room with Antonia Maas. She was the high soprano on Beauty and the Beast, and I quite fancied her. And he was writing Heroes, and I guess we were talking too much. He said, would you two mind taking a walk? And then we took a walk by the wall. I think it was early evening. And from where David could see out of the control room, he could see us and the wall. And we had a little kiss by the wall. Coco Schwab remained in the control room with David. And when Antonia and I finally came back, she was grinning like a Cheshire cat. And I go, what's so funny? She goes, you're in the song. You and Antonia are in the song. And David was smiling too. He's finally got the lyric out of himself.
Heroes turned out to be a huge hit for Bowie, and he recorded one more album in Berlin, Lodger.
The engineers at Hansa felt that having Bowie and Iggy Pop record at Hansa was a huge stroke of luck for the studio. Now, other artists and bands wanted to come and find their new sound too.
Among those bands was Depeche Mode. The band had been struggling as they were recording their third album in London. They really wanted to toughen up and darken their pop sound, and Hansa was just the place for that. So in 1983, they moved camp to Berlin.
At that time, samplers had just arrived to the world of recording. The band and their engineer, Gareth Jones, walked around the streets of Berlin banging on pipes and walls and sheet metal, whatever they found, and sampling the sounds to use for the rhythms in their songs.
That's got a good sound. No.
Yep, sure is. Can we make a stereo recording?
Don't you like this sound? Doesn't anyone like this sound? Listen to it, the ring.
Good one. Sounded very good to me.
Excited about their new sounds and ideas, the band went on to finish their record Construction Time Again, which contained the critically acclaimed single Everything Counts. They felt the album was a massive step forward in their musical journey, leaving the lighter pop sound behind forever. There was no doubt about it. Hansa became a beacon for those looking to unleash their musical freedom.
Somebody who cares for me passionately.
In 1982, Nick Cave and his troubled band The Birthday Party moved to West Berlin, and the band broke up shortly after. But out of the ashes of that breakup while in Berlin, Nick Cave put together his ultimate band, The Bad Seeds. Together, the new band began recording at Hansa, and the sound that emerged was bigger, more gothic, and more epic than anything Nick had done before.
It was a place where you could do what you wanted. You were only trapped by your own limitations. And so it's about the people. Mick would be playing drums on one song, then he'd be playing guitar. Barry would be playing drums, then he'd be singing.
Inside the big hall at Hansa, the Bad Seeds recorded their album, The Firstborn is Dead, with the driving single Tupelo.
Tupelo sounds very strongly of this room. That song was just me and Barry, and the basic track sounded massive, it sounded huge.
Once again, Hansa had played its part in helping a band carve out its new sound. Over the next few years, the Bad Seeds went on to record more albums at Hansa.
Hansa has a sound, and that sound helps guide them through their creative process.
like a darkness in the dust, you know, something that you can use.
It is as much an instrument as any guitar, drum, synth. You know, it's a vital, vital part.
By the end of the 80s, West Berlin was changing. According to the locals, the energy was flattening out and the artist scene was disappearing. Then, something happened that changed everything.
The East German government made an announcement. On November 9th, 1989, the people of East Berlin could go and visit West Berlin. On that day, their guards in their towers were no longer in force. Crowds of East Germans climbed over the wall where they were met by West Germans. Souvenir hunters began chipping off pieces of the wall. The fall of the Berlin Wall had begun, and on October 3rd, 1990, Germany was officially reunited.
I can remember sitting in Hansa, looking out of the window, and there's a row of armoured personnel carriers, all sitting there waiting, because it's the day of reunification. And there was such a groundswell anti-reunification that the police and the authorities seriously thought there was going to be a massive riot.
And strangely enough, that's the night that U2 arrived for the first time.
Like the other artists who had come to Hansa, U2 were in need of something.
U2 wanting to go to Hansa to blow up U2.
When U2 arrived, they were struggling, both as a band on a personal level and on an artistic level. They were burnt out, and they couldn't figure out how to get any magic to erupt. To compound things, they also wanted to change their sound. They wanted to pull away from the Americana image that they felt that they had inhabited of late and move into something heavier, more edgy, more driving. But first, they had some work to do.
Even before we went there was a sense of something not quite right. And then when we got there, we were on completely different pages.
Individually, fantastic. Collectively, most definitely a band on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Just the tension was palpable. Day in, day out, confrontation, questioning.
It was probably, for a moment, each man for himself, which is betrayal of the concept of a band.
For weeks, the band would come into the studio, bash out music for hours, and not come up with anything worthwhile.
We started out doing the same thing that we'd always done, which was look for the magic moments when we played together.
Finally, the band stumbled into the song Mysterious Ways, and as they were working on that song, Edge came up with an alternative bridge.
The band began to play that bridge over and over, and Bono started to float a melody over it.
One literally just dropped out of the sky. When creation is happening, you are in the present. You're not in the future, you're not in the past, you're truly in the present. You have no idea where you are except in this point of creation.
U2 had broken through, and in that one moment of brilliant light, they found themselves again. They went on to finish Achtung Baby, arguably one of their greatest albums, at Hansa.
U2, das war mein letzter Job hier. Dann war lange nichts.
After the wall came down, some sort of magic fell too with Hansa. The strain of being in the shadow of the wall and the excitement of being on the edge of civilization was gone.
Das darf man nicht vergessen. Die Mauer war für uns eine große PR-Geschichte. Als die Mauer weg war, wurde das dann hier normal.
Große Studios waren nicht mehr so gefragt. Sie waren teuer. Die Budgets für Produktion gingen langsam zurück. Und dann wurde es doch etwas schwieriger, all diese großen Flächen und technischen Ausstattungen weiterhin offen zu halten und zu warten. Und so passierte es, dass 3 von den Hansa Studios dann nach und nach geschlossen wurden.
More bands did record at Hansa in the 2000s. REM came to Berlin to record their last album, knowing all the while that they would be breaking up after the album was released. They thought it would be a fitting place for that goodbye. And other artists, such as Katie Tunstall and Snow Patrol, also came to record albums at Hansa.
For these artists and those who came before, the hall at Hansa held something special. It was a place of magic and creativity, a place to explore and push the boundaries of who they thought they were as artists. This studio, in the shadow of the wall, changed these artists, and in doing so, it changed the landscape of music forever.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss another episode. If you'd like to support our efforts, you can do so by buying us a coffee or buying some of our music at the links below. We'll see you on the next one.